We're going on to chapter 2, which talks about federalism. Now, what exactly is federalism? Federalism, or opposite of that, is unitary. These are two forms of governments. Unitary government means the full control is in the hands of the central government. In a way, in the previous chapter, we saw an example of Sri Lanka, which acts in a unitary manner. That means the central government takes over full control and the states or the regional parts don't have as much power. But in the case of Belgium, we saw that all the different states were given autonomy or a lot of power, but of course it was divided into central and state. So central has certain powers and the states are kind of subordinate, but not really. They are autonomous on their own also. India also has a federal system. A very large country like America, like India, needs to have a federal system where very clearly it is stated what are the powers of the center and what are the powers of the state. Now, to understand federalism better, we can see here the main features of federalism. So let us have a look. Now, this can come as one of the questions. Okay, what are the features of federalism? The first point you can see is you have two or more levels of government. Now, in India, we have the central government, and below that you have the state government. The state government can also be called a regional government or a provincial government, okay, for that province or for that region. The center is of course more powerful than the state, but the state enjoys autonomy or self-rule in its own jurisdiction. Next, each level has its own jurisdiction. Now, what exactly is jurisdiction? That means within that part or that territory, like Maharashtra government has jurisdiction over Maharashtra. The jurisdiction is specified and guaranteed by the Constitution. In the Constitution, very clearly it will be given which powers are with the center, which powers are with the state. Next, changes in the Constitution require consent of both levels. If they want to make an amendment, changes in Constitution are known as amendment. So if any changes have to be brought about, central government as well as state government has to vote for it, only then the changes will take place. Next, the highest court settles disputes. Now in India, we know that the highest court is the Supreme Court. If two states have a problem with each other, High Court does not decide. Now for example, let us take the Kaveri issue. The Kaveri water starts from Karnataka and goes to Tamil Nadu. If a dam is built and the water is blocked, Karnataka will get water, Tamil Nadu will not get water. Now, if this issue has to be solved in one of the high courts, of course, Karnataka will say that Karnataka is right, Karnataka High Court, or Tamil Nadu, the High Court will say Tamil Nadu is right. So, this goes to the Supreme Court. If there is a problem between one or two states or even between the center and the state, it always goes to the Supreme Court, which is in Delhi. So they will settle upon what is to be considered as just. Sources of revenue are specified. Now revenue is the tax or the income that is collected by the government to do certain things. That means whether they have to repair roads, for their administration, for running the government, they need money. From which sources will they get this money? For every level, that means even down to the lowest level, that is right up to Gram Panchayat, it is specified how the money will be got by that government. Which taxes they can charge, which they cannot charge. Certain will be charged by central government. For giving you a simple example, if you have to pay income tax, that goes to the central government. While when you pay octroi duty, that goes to the state government. Okay, so the divisions are very clear cut. Then you have unity and regional diversity. Unity, why? Because we all come under one common central government. So that's why we all are united. And yet regional diversity is also encouraged because each region has their own regional government, provincial government, or what we call state government. Federalism यानी क्या? जब कोई देश में सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट यानी यूनियन गवर्नमेंट एक होता है जो सभी को बांधे रखता है और हर स्टेट में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट रहता है, उसको कहते हैं फेडरलिज्म। सेंटर हमेशा ज्यादा पावरफुल रहेगा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के मुकाबले में, लेकिन स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में उस स्टेट में क्या करना है, वहां पे जो लॉज पास करने हैं वो स्टेट के हाथ में दिए जाते हैं, यानी उनको भी पावर रहता है। नाउ इन दिस द फर्स्ट दो लेवल्स हमने देखे, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। सो फेडरलिज्म में फर्स्ट पॉइंट जो है वो डिफरेंट लेवल्स में बांटा जाता है जो पावर है। सेकंड, हर एक का जुरिस्डिक्शन या अपना कानूनी जो दायरा है वो अपना बनाया हुआ रहता है, यानी ये आपकी हद है, इस हद के अंदर जो लॉज पास किए जाएंगे वो आपके हाथ में है। यूपी गवर्नमेंट विल डू इट फॉर यूपी, Maharashtra government will do it for Maharashtra, Gujarat government will do it for Gujarat. So they have their own jurisdiction. This jurisdiction, ये जो jurisdiction या कानूनी दायरा जो बनाया हुआ है वो आपका guaranteed है और specified, यानी वहां पे लिखा जाता है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में या राज्य घटना जो है, संविधान जो है, वहां पे क्लियरली लिखा जाएगा ताकि कल उस बात पे झगड़ा ना हो, आपकी बाउंड्रीज भी तय है। चेंजेस यानी कोई भी अगर आपको चेंज करना है संविधान में तो वो दोनों सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के सहमति से ही हो सकता है। द हाईएस्ट कोर्ट हमारे देश में सुप्रीम कोर्ट है, वो जो दिल्ली में है, उससे नीचे आते हैं सभी हाई कोर्ट्स जो स्टेट लेवल पे रहते हैं। तो अगर दो स्टेट्स का प्रॉब्लम होता है तो वो हाई कोर्ट में नहीं जाएगा, लेकिन डायरेक्टली सुप्रीम कोर्ट में उसके बारे में तय किया जाएगा। एंड फाइनली यूनिटी यानी एकता बनी रहती है बिकॉज वी हैव वन कॉमन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, और रीजनल डाइवर्सिटी यानी भिन्नता जो है, हर एक प्रांत में जो उनको लगता है कि हमारी भाषा उसको इम्पोर्टेंस देना चाहिए या हमारे प्रांत में जो होना चाहिए हमें ज्यादा अच्छे से पता, सेंट्रल को नहीं, तो वो सब भी उसको एनकरेज किया जाता है। सो यू सी दैट दीज आर द फीचर्स ऑफ द फेडरलिज्म। Okay, this can come as a question, so you must know all the 7 points. Now, continuing. The exact balance of power between central and state varies from one federation to another. That means in each country, you will find that the amount of power that the central government and the state government has can differ. This balance depends mainly on historical context. There are two types of federations. Okay, so let us have a look at the two types of federations. Now, here we have one which comes together. That means you have independent states which come together to form a federation. And the second type is holding together. That means they hold on to each other so that they don't break up. Okay, so these are the two types. Now coming together, you can see examples. That is United States of America. We know that it has 50 different states. Okay, it started off with only 13 colonies. Later on, we had 36, and then finally, today you have 50. 48 in the mainland, plus Alaska and Hawaii, making it 50. Switzerland, also different areas coming together to form one common country, and Australia. That means all states share equal power with the center. It is not that the center is more powerful. But on the other hand, you have countries which have the method of holding together. This is also a form of federation. For example, India, Spain and Belgium. Belgium we already saw in our first chapter. The center is more powerful than the states. So in India we can say that the center is definitely more powerful than the states. दो प्रकार के जो फेडरेशंस रहते हैं, यहाँ पे हमने देखा कमिंग टुगेदर यानी अलग अलग भाग एकत्रित आके एकजुट होके एक देश बनाते हैं कि हम साथ में रहेंगे। यहाँ पे सेंटर और स्टेट दोनों के पास इक्वल पावर रहता है। हमारे देश में अलग प्रकार से हुआ, होल्डिंग टुगेदर यानी हम बहुत प्रयत्न करते एक दूसरे को बांध के रखने के लिए ताकि हम टूटे नहीं, तो दैट टाइप इज कॉल्ड होल्डिंग टुगेदर लाइक इन इंडिया। तो जैसे इंडिया में आपको ऑलरेडी पता है सेंटर इज मोर पावरफुल, उसके पास ज्यादा पावर होती है एज कंपेयर टू स्टेट्स। आप हमारे 29 स्टेट्स को 29 घोड़े समझ लीजिए, ओके और अगर मैं उनकी सारथी हूं, यानी मुझे सभी घोड़ों को पकड़ के उनको चलाना है, तो किसके हाथ में ज्यादा पावर होनी चाहिए? एक एक घोड़े के हाथ में या सेंटर पे? तो जो उनको चलाता है या उनको बांध के रखता है, दैट इज द सेंटर. सो इन इंडिया यू विल फाइंड दैट द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट इज मोर पावरफुल देन the state governments. Okay, so we have these two type of federation, and according to that the power sharing is decided. What makes India a federal country? Now India federal country hai, that we already decided. We also saw that which type of federal country is it? The holding together type. Okay, so here we have earlier seen how small countries like Belgium and Sri Lanka face problems because of diversity. In fact, their problem is not much. The diversity is not much. उनके यहाँ शायद 2 भाषा या 3 भाषा हैं. इंडिया में तो और भी भाषाएं हैं, और भी धर्म हैं. So it is more difficult to hold them all together. What are the power sharing arrangements in our country? First, begin with the constitution. India has emerged as an independent nation after a painful and bloody partition. That means not only did we get freedom from the British rule after a long struggle in 1947, in 1947 there was also violence because India was then divided into 2 different parts, that is Pakistan and India. Soon after independence, several princely states became a part of the country. The constitution declared India as a union of states. Although it did not use the word federation, the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. अभी इंडिया में फेडरल सिस्टम है, लेकिन हम उसे फेडरल सिस्टम नहीं कहते. वी कॉल इट यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स. यानी है तो फेडरलिज्म, बट इंडिया में वी कॉल इट यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स. Okay, this is what we call it, but it has the same features. That means whatever points are there in federalism, you will find in India also, though we call it Union of States. We have central government and state government, with the central government being more powerful than the state. Let us go back to the 7 features if you want. All these 7 features, you will find that it is there in India also. Now, the lists are made in such a way that what power does the center have, what power does the state government have, it's very clearly listed. So we have, basically, if I have to draw it in a Venn diagram, you must have learned Venn diagram in maths already. Suppose I say this part is the union list and this portion is the state list. Now, you can see there is a part which is overlapping between union and state. This will be called the concurrent list. अभी लिस्ट वेरी क्लियरली बनाई गई है कि यूनियन यानी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पावर्स कौन से होंगे. वो लिस्ट अगर हम इसमें लिखते हैं तो आप देख सकते हैं कि ये ज्यादा बड़ा है इससे, तो उनके हाथ में ज्यादा पावर है. स्टेट लिस्ट भी वेरी क्लियरली वहां पे लिखी गई है संविधान में कि आपके पावर्स क्या है, ताकि कोई भी झगड़ा ना हो. ये यूनियन का है और ये स्टेट लिस्ट में आता है. जो ओवरलैपिंग होता है यानी जो दोनों में आता है वो है कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट, यानी उसमें स्टेट का भी हक बनता है और यूनियन का भी हक बनता है. कोई पॉइंट्स ऐसे होंगे जो ना स्टेट लिस्ट में आए, ना सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के नीचे आए, कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट में भी नहीं आए, तो उसको कहा जाता है रेसिड्यूअल पावर्स. रेसिड्यूअल यानी बचा कुचा. So residual powers will also come in the union list. So this very nicely diagrammatically you can see that the union list has more powers, central government, that is the union government, has more powers than the state government. Some of the powers are shared by both of them, that comes in the concurrent list. And finally, which come in neither, those will be called as residuary powers. Okay, so now let us look at the union list. This includes subjects of defense. Now defense जो है army, navy and air force, that will always be in the hands of the central government. Foreign affairs, any treaty which is signed between India and any other country will always be based on the entire nation. So you will not have the governor of Maharashtra signing with some other country. It will be our president or representing our country, our prime minister, who signs the treaty. banking, communication and currency. Now in all over India you have the same currency. You don't have different currency. The same rupee note with Gandhiji on it will work in the entire country. In the olden days, when you had the Nawab of Hyderabad, he used to have his own coin, or you had the Nawab of Bengal who used to have his own coin. So in each area you had different coins, you had different coins of different value or denomination, but now we have common currency. They all included in the union list because we need uniform policy throughout the country. तो यूनियन लिस्ट में जो भी हम देखते हैं या तो पूरे देश के लिए उसका महत्व होगा, जैसे कि आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स, या जो पैसे है, करेंसी है, वो पूरे देश के लिए एक ही होती है, तो वो आया आपके यूनियन लिस्ट में. नाउ गोइंग ऑन टू स्टेट लिस्ट. दिस कंटेन्स सब्जेक्ट्स लाइक पुलिस. सो वी हैव Maharashtra police, we have Gujarat police, we have different police for each state. तो उनका जो कानूनी दायरा होता है that will be limited to the state. Trade and commerce, agriculture and irrigation. Agriculture या धान उगाने का या व्यापार, वो सब अपने स्टेट के मुताबिक उसके रूल्स बदलते हैं. The state government alone can make laws relating to subjects mentioned in the state list. तो state list में जो भी points होंगे, union government उस list पे laws या कानून अमल नहीं कर सकती. Concurrent list. Concurrent means जो common है, उसमें union का हक भी बनता है and state का. So this includes things which are common for both. For example, education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, succession. Both the union as well as state government can make laws on this. What about subjects which don't come in any of these? Suppose now subjects like computer software. This is a new subject that came up after the constitution was made. According to our constitution, all the residuary subjects will also be in the union government. So that means they will make laws on it. We noted that the most federations that are formed are holding together, do not give equal opportunity to the constituent units. Thus, all states in the Indian Union do not have identical powers. Some have special status. For example, Jammu and Kashmir has its own constitution. Now, we already know that center and state, they are not at equal levels. Center has more power than the states. But in the states also, Jammu Kashmir enjoys autonomy. That is self-rule. They have their own constitution. Many provisions of the Indian Constitution are not applicable to this state. Indians who are not permanent residents of the state cannot buy land or house here. Similar provisions exist for some other states of India as well. तो हमने यहाँ पे देखा कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में अगर आप वहाँ के निवासी नहीं हैं तो आप वहाँ पे लैंड खरीद नहीं सकते. बाकी के जो बाकी सारे जो states है, 28 other states, you can buy land even if you're not originally from that place. So Kashmir has a special provision. There are some units of Indian Union which enjoy very little power. These are areas which are too small to become independent state but could not be merged with any existing states. These areas like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, or the capital city of Delhi are called union territories. So there are 7 union territories which are very small. Andaman, Nicobar, Lakshadweep Islands, these come, or Diu, Daman. So all these will come under central government. They don't have a state government separately of their own. This sharing of power between the union government and the state government is basic to the structure of constitution. It is not easy to make changes in this power sharing arrangement. Parliament cannot on their own change this arrangement. Now suppose union government को लगता है कि हमको ज़्यादा power चाहिए, हम state government से ले लें, तो वो ये संभावना नहीं है. Why? Because कोई भी change लाने के लिए, कोई भी amendment करने के लिए उनको दोनों का मत पूछना पड़ेगा, यानी union government as well as state government. Any change has to be first passed by both houses of parliament. Now, which are the two houses of parliament? The two houses of parliament, that is the upper house, that is Rajya Sabha, and the lower house, that is the Lok Sabha, with at least 2/3 majority. Then it has to be ratified by the legislatures of at least half of the total states. अभी कोई भी change लाने के लिए 2/3 majority union से आनी चाहिए. 2/3 will mean 66.6% वोट मिनिमम मिलने चाहिए अगर आपको संविधान में चेंज लाना है. वो है यूनियन से, प्लस मिनिमम हाफ द स्टेट्स. नाउ 29 का हाफ तो हम कर नहीं सकते, सो 30 स्टेट्स अगर हम पकड़ते हैं तो मिनिमम 15 स्टेट्स को भी हाँ कहना है, फिर हम इसमें चेंज ला सकते हैं. नॉट ओनली यूनियन बट ऑल्सो स्टेट्स. मिनिमम हाफ स्टेट्स को हाँ कहना है, फिर वो हम चेंज ला सकेंगे. The judiciary plays an important role in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provisions. High courts, of course, is at state level. Supreme Court is at the central level. Union and state governments have the power to raise resources by levying taxes. Now, each state as well as center has the right, वो tax जब हम पर लगाते हैं, वो बनता है उनका रेवेन्यू. रेवेन्यू यानी आमदनी जो गवर्नमेंट को मिलती है, that is through taxes. Of course, there are direct as well as indirect taxes like excise duty, octroi or customs duties. There are different duties that we pay, or we pay for licenses, and that becomes the income of the government. Now, how is federalism practiced? Now let us see. Constitutional provisions are necessary for success of federalism, but these are not sufficient. That means if the rules are laid down very clearly in the constitution so that there is no fight between union and state, because the union list and state list is very clearly mentioned. Okay, so that is not enough. That is one of the points. If the federal experiment has succeeded in India, it is not merely because of clearly laid out constitutional provisions. The real success of federalism in India can be attributed to the nature of democratic politics in our country. This ensured that the spirit of federalism, respect for diversity, and desire for living together became a shared ideal in our country. तो हमने देखा कि स्टेट और यूनियन की जो लिस्ट बनाई गई है वो बहुत क्लियरली मेंशन्ड है. उसके कारण झगड़ा होने के कारण कम बनते हैं, संभावना कम बनती है. लेकिन सिर्फ वो लिख के ऐसे काफ़ी नहीं है. इम्पॉर्टेंट यह है कि हम हमारे प्रॉब्लम्स कैसे सुलझाते हैं. फर्स्ट thing, that was linguistic states. Our states were formed according to the basis of language or linguistic basis. The creation of linguistic states was first and the major test for democratic politics in our country. If you look at the political map of India when it began its journey in 1947 and that of 2006, you'll see that it's very, very different. All the old states have vanished, new states have come. In 1947, boundaries of several old states were changed in order to create new states. This was done to ensure that people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. Later on also, you can see that Nagaland, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, all these are formed based on the language. Now suppose the people of Jharkhand, earlier when it was part of Bihari, they felt that but we are not Bihar or Bihari speaking people, we are Jharkhandi. So Jharkhand Mukti Morcha saw to it that they have a separate state of their own, that is Jharkhand. Northeastern states came under one common big Assam, but then according to the different tribes, they felt no, we are Mizorami or we are Naga or we are Khasi, we are from Garo. So depending on which hills and which tribes, they became separate, forming 7 different states. When the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised, some national leaders feared that it would lead to disintegration of the country. Central government resisted linguistic state for some time. But the experience has shown that the formation of linguistic states has actually made the country more united. अभी 1947 में उस वक्त states नहीं थे, प्रांत थे, बहुत बड़े बड़े प्रांत थे. उस वक्त अलग अलग भाषीय लोग एक साथ एक प्रांत में रहते थे. जब उनकी मांग बनी कि हमारे स्टेट्स हमारी भाषा के अनुसार बनाए जाए, पहले यूनियन गवर्नमेंट को लगा नहीं, फिर हमारा इंडिया टूट फूट जाएगा क्योंकि कितनी भाषाएं हैं. बाद में यह पाया गया कि अगर भाषा के मुताबिक उनका स्टेट बनता है तो उन्हें भी खुशी होती है, हम एकत्रित भी रह सकते हैं, लेकिन हमारी भाषा का कल्चर, एजुकेशन जो हमें महत्व देना है वो हम दे सकते हैं. उदाहरण के तौर पे एक बड़ा डेक्कन बड़ा एरिया था। अगर एक भाग बन गया गुजरात, जहां पे गुजराती भाषीय लोग रहते हैं, एक बनता है महाराष्ट्र जहां पे मराठी बोलते हैं, एक बनता है कर्नाटक जहां पे कन्नड़ स्पीकिंग पीपल आर देयर, एंड देन देयर वाज अ स्मॉल पार्ट ऑफ आंध्र प्रदेश ऑल्सो वेयर यू हैव तेलुगु स्पीकिंग पीपल। तो हर एक भाग जो प्रांत था, एक बड़ा प्रांत, वो स्टेट्स में विभाजन उसका हुआ अपने भाषा अनुसार, और इसमें कोई दिक्कत हमें आज नजर नहीं आती जो उन्हें डर था कि हम टूट फूट जाएंगे। सो उन्होंने ये कैसे सुलझाया, यानी लोगों की मांग पूरी की। सेकेंड, लैंग्वेज पॉलिसी। A second test for Indian Federation is the language policy. Our constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was identified as the official language, but Hindi is the mother tongue of 40% of Indians. अभी राष्ट्रीय भाषा कहने जाए तो काफी लोगों को नेचुरली तुरंत ये जबान पे आता है कि हिंदी हमारी राष्ट्रीय भाषा है। 40% हिंदी भाषीय लोग इंडिया में रहते हैं, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट में जानबूझ के उन्होंने उसको राष्ट्रीय भाषा नहीं कहा गया है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे जो सदर्न स्टेट्स हैं, साउथ में जो स्टेट्स है, उनका मानना ये है कि फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज इंडिया की जो है वो है तमिल। द्रविडियन लोग पहले इंडिया में आए, फिर उसके बाद में आर्यन लोग आए, तो हिंदी आर्य भाषा है और इसीलिए वो हिंदी को राष्ट्रीय भाषा मानने के से इनकार करते हैं। सो नो प्रॉब्लम, वी डू नॉट consider any language as official language. Hindi is one of the languages other than 19 other regional languages which have been recognized by the Constitution. Therefore, there are many safeguards to protect other languages. Besides Hindi, there are 21 other languages. First there were 19, now 2 more have been added. That is even Konkani, Kutchi, because there are some languages which did not have a written script. For example, Tulu. Tulu does not have a written script, so it's a spoken dialect. Of course, that way if you see dialects, there are many, many more languages in India. Languages by a constitution, they have made a schedule, and in that they have recognized all these languages. A candidate in an examination conducted for central government positions may opt to take the exam in any of these languages. States also have their official language. So, हर स्टेट में ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज है राष्ट्रीय भाषा हिंदी, प्लस जो भी भाषा में आप कंफर्टेबल हो, आप यूनियन की जब एग्जाम रहती है यूपीएससी, उसमें दे सकते हैं। मच ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट वर्क टेक्स प्लेस इन द ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज ऑफ द कंसर्न स्टेट। जो भी स्टेट में गवर्नमेंट का काम रहता है, मोस्टली उस स्टेट की जो ऑफिशियल भाषा है उसमें किया जाता है। Unlike Sri Lanka, leaders of our country adopted a very cautious attitude in spreading the use of Hindi. The use of English for official purpose was to stop in 1965. However, many non-Hindi speaking states demanded the use of English to continue. In Tamil Nadu, this movement took a violent form. The central government responded by agreeing to continue use of English along with Hindi for official purpose. Many critics think that this solution favored the English-speaking elite, and promotion of Hindi continues as the official policy of the government. Promotion does not mean that the central government can impose Hindi on states. The flexibility shown by Indian political leaders helped our country avoid a situation like Sri Lanka. First part में हमने देखा कि श्रीलंका में सिन्हाला ये ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज उन्होंने जबरदस्ती यही कहा कि यही मानी जाएगी, इवन दो देयर आर मेनी तमिल स्पीकिंग पीपल। इंडिया में ऑफिशियल भाषा हिंदी को नहीं माना गया है। हिंदी को जरूर महत्व देते हैं, नहीं तो आपको चाहिए तो इंग्लिश यूज कर सकते हैं। तो इंग्लिश और हिंदी ये दो भाषाएं हैं जो ऑफिशियल पेपर्स के लिए यूज की जाती है। अगर आप दोनों में कंफर्टेबल नहीं हैं तो आपके स्टेट में जो भी भाषा बोली जाती है, ऑफिशियल work can be done even in those languages. We are not forcing anybody. Any language is not foisted upon you, it is not forced upon you. Next is the center and state relation. तो first हमने देखा linguistic states were formed. Second, we had the language policy. So India manages to make a strong federation by having all these policies. Now the third is the kind of relation they have between center and state. How the constitutional arrangements for sharing power work in reality depends to a large extent on the ruling parties. अभी शेयर करने के लिए आपको पता है कि सेंटर इज स्ट्रॉन्गर, स्टेट्स आर लेस स्ट्रॉन्ग एज कंपेयर टू स्टेट, बट फाइनली जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी पावर में आती है उस पर निर्भर होगा. This meant that state government did not exercise their rights as autonomous federal rule, that is for a long time when the same party ruled. As and when the ruling party at the state level was different, the parties that ruled at the center tried to undermine the powers of the state. In those days, central government would often misuse the constitution to dismiss the state government that were controlled by rival parties. This undermined the spirit of federalism. अभी काफी टाइम या काफी साल जब एक ही पार्टी पावर में हो सेंटर में, तो कभी कभी ये पाया जाता है जो माइनर पार्टी स्टेट में जीत के आती है उनका महत्व उतना नहीं होता, या उसी पार्टी जो सेंटर में है उनकी पार्टी अगर स्टेट में जीत के आए तो उनको महत्व देते हैं. तो ये होना नहीं चाहिए. As all this changed in 1990. This period saw the rise of regional political parties in many states. This was also the beginning of the era of coalition government. At the center, since no single party got a clear majority in Lok Sabha, the major national parties had to enter into alliance with many parties, including several regional parties, to form a government at the center. This led to a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy of state government. This trend was supported by a major judgment of the Supreme Court that made it difficult for the central government to dismiss state government in an arbitrary manner. Thus, federal power sharing is more effective today than it was in the early years after Constitution came into power. 1947 से लेके कांग्रेस ही चलता रहा. 1990 में ये सब बदला. For a short while, in about 78 or so, you had the Janata Party. And afterwards, you had many changes in the government in 1990 and 91. Majority ऐसे किसी भी पार्टी को न मिलने के कारण दो तीन पार्टी साथ में आके युति या कोalition फॉर्म करते हैं ताकि उनको पावर मिले. अभी पावर मिलने के लिए आपको मेजॉरिटी वोट्स चाहिए, मेजॉरिटी यानी 51% के ऊपर. अगर किसी को 20% मिलता है, किसी को 30% मिलता है, तो वो साथ में आके, यानी ना आपको पावर मिलेगी सिर्फ 20% में, ना हमको मिलेगी, तो हम क्यों ना दो तीन जन साथ में आके हम राजगद्दी पे बैठे, यानी पावर हमारे हाथ में आ जाती है. लेकिन इसमें जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स थे उनका भी महत्व बढ़ा, क्योंकि एक कॉमन मेजॉरिटी पार्टी उन्हें दिखाई नहीं दी after 1990. So you can see that in India you can see different states made according to linguistic basis, different languages are used. We call it the 3-language policy. That means English, Hindi and the regional language. And also you can see that the center and the state share power. Now, linguistic diversity in India, which is given in your book, they have given all the different languages, and you can see that Hindi speaking people are the maximum in our country, that is 40.2%. Now we look at decentralization in India. Now what exactly is decentralization? Centralization means the entire power is in the hands of the center. सेंट्रलाइजेशन यानी सिर्फ यूनियन गवर्नमेंट या सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के हाथ में पूरा पावर रहेगा. डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन यानी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, उसके बाद में स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, और उसके नीचे जो हमने देखा पंचायती राज सिस्टम, 3 टायर सिस्टम. दैट मीन्स आफ्टर सेंटर एंड स्टेट यू हैव द जिला परिषद, पंचायत समिति, एंड एट द लोएस्ट लेवल द ग्राम पंचायत. हाउ एट द डिफरेंट लेवल्स द पावर इज स्प्रेड आउट or it is shared by the different levels in the hierarchy. That is known as decentralization. Decentralization is a good system because local self-government has the power over their local area. State government has the power in their jurisdiction. यानी अपनी जो कानूनी हद है, jurisdiction है, वहाँ पे आपका हक बनता है. So this is a good system. We noted that federal governments have 2 or more tiers of government. We have so far discussed 2 tiers. तो अभी तक हमने सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के बारे में बात किया. But a vast country like India cannot be run only with 2 tiers. States in India are as large as independent countries of Europe. UP is bigger than Russia. Maharashtra is about as big as Germany. Many of these states are internally very diverse. There is thus a need for power sharing. Now, if you say UP is bigger than Russia, no, not in terms of land. We are talking about in terms of population. So, UP itself has so much population, more than the biggest country in the world, which is by size, of course, that is Russia. So, it cannot happen that only one state government controls the entire area. It needs something below that. Now, decentralization of power will mean you have a third tier. So, first you have the central government, which is at Delhi. Below that, you'll have the state government. That will be in all 29 states, but it will not be in the 7 union territories. 7 union territories will come under state government. And below this, we have the local self-government. Or the Panchayati Raj. Now, in this itself, we have 3 levels. That is the Zilla Parishad, at district level, then you have the Panchayat Samiti, and the Gram Panchayat at the grassroots level, that is the village level. When power is taken away from the center and state government and given to local government, it is called decentralization. So, decentralization means giving power to local self-government. The basic idea behind decentralization is that there is a large number of problems and issues which are best settled at local level. People have better knowledge of problems in these localities. They also have better ideas where to spend the money and how to manage things more efficiently. Besides, at the local level, it is possible for the people to directly participate in decision making. This helps to inculcate a habit of democratic participation. Local government is the best way to realize important principle of democracy, that is local self-government. हर local area में, छोटी-छोटी areas में, उन लोगों को क्या चाहिए, उनकी मांगे क्या है, उन्हें best पता होगा. तो naturally local self-government में उस area के लिए उनको जो भी गरज होगी, उस हिसाब से वो रूल्स बनाएंगे, उस हिसाब से उसको पूर्ण करेंगे. सो दैट विल बी द बेस्ट थिंग. सेकंड थिंग इज लोगों का उसमें सहभागी होना, यानी उनका पार्टिसिपेशन भी होता है. उदाहरण के तौर पे, टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, यू हैव अ हाउसिंग सोसाइटी. जिस सोसाइटी में आप रहते हैं, वहाँ के जो प्रॉब्लम्स है, जैसे पानी का प्रॉब्लम है या बहुत गाड़ियां हैं और पार्किंग के लिए जगह नहीं है आपके सोसाइटी में, तो उसके बारे में तय कौन करेगा? आप बेहतर कर सकेंगे. तो आपके सोसाइटी में आप एक कमेटी बनाते हैं जिसका चेयरमैन, सेक्रेटरी, ट्रेजरर होता है. तो वो एक छोटे तौर पे सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट जैसे होगा. आप रूल्स बनाते हैं कि हर मेंबर को इतना भरना है पार्किंग के लिए, या हर मेंबर को ये करना है, वो करना है, नहीं करना है. तो इट बिकम्स ईजियर फॉर लोकल सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट टू डिसाइड फॉर दैट लोकेलिटी. The need for decentralization was recognized in our constitution. Since then, there have been several attempts to decentralize power to the level of villages and towns. Panchayat in villages and municipalities in urban areas are set up in all states, but these were directly under the control of state governments. Elections to these local governments were not held regularly. Local governments did not have any powers. Thus, the decentralization was not very effective. A major step was taken in 1992 and they made the third level very effective. Now, how did they do this? First, constitutionally, it is mandatory to have a regular government body elections. Now, this third tier, ये जो third tier था, कहने के लिए तो बना था, लेकिन उनके हाथ में बहुत पावर नहीं था. तो उनको पावर दिलाने के लिए फर्स्ट क्या किया गया? रेगुलर इलेक्शंस. अभी रेगुलर इलेक्शंस हर 5 साल में जो होते हैं, व्हाई इज इट इंपॉर्टेंट? नहीं तो वन कम्स टू पावर और वो चिपका रहता है. Second, seats were reserved in the elected bodies and the executive heads of these institutions for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other backward classes. So, second point that was there was reservation of seats for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward classes and also, यहाँ पे जिक्र नहीं है, लेकिन also for women. You know that 1/3 seats are also kept for women. The next point we can see 1/3 is given for women. So instead of taking it separately, I have put it as the same point. An independent institution called the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct the panchayat and municipal election. So you also have the State Election Commission. ताकि टाइम टू टाइम इलेक्शन हो, ठीक बराबर इलेक्शन हो, ये देखने के लिए स्टेट इलेक्शन कमीशन भी बिठाया जाता है. The state governments are required to share some powers and revenue with the local government bodies, and the nature of sharing varies from state to state. So, state shares power and revenue. Now, if Zilla Parishad needs money, then they can take it from the state. They can share it with them, or also some powers. So these are the rules which were made in 1992, because of which local self-government has got more importance now. Otherwise, we always had Panchayati Raj system as soon as our constitution started, but you find that they did not have much power. Rural local self-government is known as Panchayati Raj. Each village or a group of villages in some states has a Gram Panchayat. This is a council consisting of several ward members, often known as the Panch, and the head will be known as the Sarpanch. They are directly elected by the adult population living in that ward or village. It is the decision-making body for the entire village. The Panchayat works under the overall supervision of the Gram Sabha. All the voters in the village are its members, and it has to meet at least twice or thrice in a year to approve the annual budget of the Gram Panchayat and to review the performance of the Gram Panchayat. अभी जो Gram Panchayat हमने देखी, that is at the lowest level or in a village. वहाँ पे सभी जो adults है, यानी 18 साल जिनके पूर्ण हो चुके हैं, whether it is a male or female, they have the right to vote. वो वोट करते हैं अपने पंच को बिठाने के लिए, और उनमें से एक सरपंच चुनते हैं. ये सरपंच और पंच तय करती है जो हमारे गांव के लिए क्या बेहतर होगा या अच्छा होगा. फॉर दिस मीटिंग all of the people who are above 18 are allowed to attend, यानी ग्राम सभा जो रहती है उस सभा में तय किया जाता है, वोट कर सकते हैं वो. एंड दिस विल टेक प्लेस एवरी 5 years. इलेक्शन हर 5 साल के बाद में होता है पंच और सरपंच को तय करने के लिए. जो भी खड़ा रहना चाहता है वो रह सकता है. Doesn't matter if it is of a particular caste or community, and we already saw that reservation of seats are kept for women as well as those who are financially depressed, that means other backward classes, as well as tribal and caste, lower caste. The local government structure goes right up to the district level. Few Gram Panchayat are grouped together to form a Panchayat Samiti or block or mandal, and the members of these representatives will be members in that area. All the Panchayat Samitis or mandals in a district together constitute the Zilla Parishad. Most members of Zilla Parishad are elected. Members of Lok Sabha and MLAs of the district and some other officials of other district level bodies are also its members. Zilla Parishad chairperson is political head of the Zilla Parishad. तो कभी कभी ग्राम पंचायत हर गांव में रहती है. अगर छोटे छोटे बहुत ही छोटे 2-3 गांव साथ में हैं तो उनका एक ग्राम पंचायत हो सकता है. Many representatives from ग्राम पंचायत आके पंचायत समिति बनाते हैं. That means this is at a block level. This will be called ward level, and this will be called block level. Then many from here will also be represented in the Zilla Parishad. Zilla Parishad will have people from the state government also. Revenue, as we saw, money will also be shared by state government with the local self-government. Similarly, local government bodies exist for urban areas as well. तो ये तो हुआ ग्रामीण एरिया में, so this is what we have in the rural areas. But in the urban areas also we have municipalities or municipal corporation. So local self-government, if we have to see it in two ways. So that means we can see one, this is rural, that is ग्रामीण भाग में आप ये पाएंगे, and in the urban you will find municipalities or in very big cities like Bombay or Mumbai you find municipal corporations. तो ये हुआ शहरी विभाग. Local self-governments that are set up in big towns, cities and all. So we saw for both municipality or municipal corporation. Both of these are controlled by elected bodies consisting of people's representatives. तो दोनों जगह आप पाएंगे कि लोग अपने जो प्रतिनिधि है उनका इलेक्शन में उनको जितवा के फिर यहाँ पे भी आप देखेंगे लोगों के प्रतिनिधि होंगे और गांव में भी आप देखेंगे कि लोगों के प्रतिनिधि होंगे. Municipal chairperson is the political head of the municipality, and in a municipal corporation such as an officer known as a mayor. So in Mumbai you also have a mayor. This new system of local government is the largest experiment in democracy conducted anywhere in the world. There are now about 36 lakh elected representatives in the panchayat and municipalities, etc., all over the country. The number is bigger than the population in many countries in the world. Constitutional status for local government has helped to deepen democracy in our country. It has also increased women's representation, and now they have a voice in the democracy. At the same time, there are difficulties. While elections are held enthusiastically, regularly, most state governments have not transferred significant powers to the local government, nor have they given adequate resources. We are thus a long way from realizing ideal self-government. अभी आदर्श self-government बनाने के लिए जो points हमने देखे, फेडरलिज्म अगर होता है तो सेंट्रल और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट में बंटवारा होता है पावर्स का. सिर्फ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के हाथ में सब कुछ नहीं होता. नीचे के लेवल और नीचे जाएं अगर, यानी ग्रास रूट लेवल तक, तो लोकल सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट्स भी इस हमें और भी हक देता है. लोगों के प्रतिनिधि जो होते हैं तो हर लेवल में आप इनको पाएंगे. लेकिन जो आदर्श डेमोक्रेसी है, जो परफेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी है, वहां तक पहुंचने में अभी तक थोड़ी दिक्कत है. अभी क्या दिक्कत है ये उन्होंने दिया है कि काफी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स लोकल सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट्स को पूरी तरह से पावर शेयर करने नहीं देते. तो एक्चुअली वो लेवल तक होना चाहिए, तभी वो डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड माना जाएगा. सिमिलरली दे मे नॉट हैव इनफ रिसोर्सेज यानी उनकी आमदनी उतनी नहीं होगी. कोई भी गवर्नमेंट अच्छा काम तभी कर सकती है जब उनके पास पैसे हो, enough revenues, enough resources. So then we have to try to work towards an ideal government. In India, we saw federalism has managed to work because of also 3 more points. And those points that we saw, instead of this federal system, that means how do we hold people together? We were scared that they will separate, so we formed linguistic states. We also used 3-language method, where everyone is happy, they have their own regional language also. And we also saw that there is a power sharing not only between center and state, but also below that with the local self-governing bodies.